I'd like to talk about weather and co-creating. And I have this deep belief that I think you can feel is true for me, that everything works out perfectly, everything's unfolding in an amazing way in my life, and I live by that and I understand that. And so the little hiccups and contrasts that come along the way don't aggravate me for very long. We live on a little farm, and weather is an important part of our life. And we just went through 60 days or so in July and August that were really unpleasant, hot and without rain. And we like to see plants happy and animals happy, and that helps make us happy. And we like to think, my partner and I, that we're pretty good allowers. What I'm wondering was where our ability to co-create falls in the rain that we experienced on our place, and whether our resistance was keeping the kind of weather that we thought we would get from us. And then when we did get a break in the weather, and it eventually turned incredibly beautiful, was that how important were we in what part did we play in that eventually happening?
Well, you're really talking about something that we like to talk about all the time, which is it better or possible for me to contemplate something that I desire and hold myself in vibrational alignment with it and thereby create it, or am I one who just observes what is and has to adjust to it? And we say, in every and all cases, you're the creator of your experience. So in this environment that we talk about, that is this perfectly balanced environment where there are enough components of all things that anything that you want can be created, we cannot put weather outside of that.
Right.
In other words, in the same way that there are enough of you that are wanting enough different things, that any of you, if you have the ability to identify a desire for it, this platform in which you are living has the ability to deliver to you the means to achieve it. Weather falls within that also. So we would say to you that yes to both of your questions. Yes, that here's an easier and more comfortable way for you to receive this. Most people don't think very much, very often, about things that are important to them until contrast shows them the opposite of it. And so sometimes, in other words, most people talk about wanting wellness more from the standpoint of being a little less well than they do from their place of utter vitality. And most people talk more about wanting rain from the place of drought. And so it is a rather normal thing that the conditions that you are living would then spur your desire. And sometimes, in fact, it's true of almost everyone, that what you are living, what manifests, gets your attention, and then you perpetuate what is a little longer while you complain about it and worry about it and focus upon it and beat the drum of it and continue the vibration of it. And in most cases, you don't need to, but in most cases, you do that for a little while before your true desire or determination is focused. And then once it gets big enough or bad enough that you decide that you're going to do something about it and begin focusing upon it, sometimes you've gone too far into the other vibration, and now it takes some bridging, as we talked about at the beginning of this day. You just can't get from drought to rain overnight because you've been beating the drum of drought for a while. And so then it takes a little bit of time for you to soothe yourself into it, and when you do, it breaks for you.
And that happened?
Yes. The question that comes to many is, but what part did I play and what part did my neighbors play? And Esther loves it when in Texas droughts there is an isolated rainstorm over Bernie, Texas. In other words, she'll hear it on the news and it always makes her laugh. And it usually comes following a $1,000 water bill. In other words, they'll get a big water bill and it will be very annoying to Esther, and then she will beat the drum of how outrageous it is that they're charging that much for water, and how even though there is no real drought, they still are not lowering the restrictions. And she'll stew on that for a little while, and she has to get over that before she can then allow herself to be the focal point that, you see, everything, you are the creator of your life experience, and you have creative control in all areas of your life experience. But what messes so many of you up is that you try to factor everybody else in. If you weren't trying to factor everybody else in, your purity between your desire and your pattern of vibration would be more constant. we liked what we heard you say about how my life really goes well. And there are hiccups occasionally, but for the most part, my life really goes well. And when you wrap that feeling around your farm and you look at the broader view and you acknowledge that even though some animals may have been thirstier or some trees may have been thirstier, that it all always works out and all really is well. In that attitude of all really is well, you create an environment of well-being. And weather patterns, literally, we're going to speak it for anyone to repeat it who desires. Weather patterns literally evolve around the mass consciousness of those who perceive them.
Well, yeah, I feel like we have that influence, and I'm frustrated that I can't tell exactly where my vibration is. If I feel like I have the ability to have a pure vibration about that, but I can't really put my finger on it, and yet it didn't rain, so the manifestation told me I wasn't quite where I wanted to be.
You can do that in a easier way by stepping into a broader place. Rather than being specifically focused upon wanting the well-being that you call rain, just focus upon the well-being that exists. That's a softer place. Okay. Esther discovered, as she worked with this diligently a few years ago when she was in Texas more of the time and they were experiencing drought there, and Esther discovered that even though she was sitting on her porch wanting rain, she was wanting it so severely from the place of not having it that her vibration was very far apart from that which would attract rain.
I see.
And so when she finally relaxed into the idea of what the rain feels like and actually started smelling the rain even though it wasn't raining, and started feeling the humidity even though the air was very dry, and started basking in the deliciousness of the softened earth and the watered landscape. As she relaxed into that, the rain began almost immediately. And so, and many would say, well, why would one think that they have that sort of power of influence? And we say, all have it. You all have the power to direct the well-being that is meant for you right to the spot where you stand. You have the power to do that.
It used to be that we'd finish a hay field, which takes 2 or 3 days, and almost to the minute we'd finish the hay field, we'd getting the hay in, it would rain. And it was uncanny. I mean, that happened a lot of times back in the old farm. And
it waited for you to do what you needed to do before it began to rain. And when, yes.
And now we're a little more dependent upon it, and I feel like, no. Is it worthwhile talking a little bit about like this whole area that, I mean, what was it that finally released it? Was it just a kind of a mass, everybody just finally went where you just described Esther went, or what is it that releases it?
It isn't so much even that everybody needs to do it. It is that those who are focusing most upon it must release their resistance.
Okay.
Look
the other way, at least.
There are a lot of people that are not focused very much about it. We like to tease our human friends when we say, your fickleness serves you, because as a mass consciousness, you can't stay focused upon anything very long. Your media doesn't allow it. And it's really a good thing, because if you could, you would cause much more destruction than you usually do. So the idea that you jump from topic to topic does have its saving grace.
Okay.